Hi, I am Marloes, and normally on this channel, I share my family's quiet life in the French countryside, the renovations of our farmhouse, brocante shopping, cooking, all things slow living in France. But today, I'm making a completely different video because this is the video I wish I would have found 2 years ago when my taste and smell got distorted after I had been sick with the virus we've all been talking about. So if you're currently struggling with that, so either loss of taste and smell or distorted taste and smell, which we call parosmia, I hope this video is helpful to you. I do want to stress and put this huge disclaimer up here that I am not a medical professional, and there is no guarantee that what I accidentally found out healed my taste and smell distortion is going to work for you as well. So I urge you to, if you're going to do any of the things that I talk about, which is just my personal experience, to consult with a medical professional. So just to give you a little background of how my situation looked, so you can see if this resembles where you currently are. So I got sick with the virus for a couple of days, not too bad, lost my taste and smell for a few days, and then it came back normal. However, 6 months later, I started noticing a couple of things started to smell and taste off. And over the course of maybe 2 to 3 weeks, I realized a lot had changed, and it highly impacted my joy. I love cooking. I even published a cookbook during the very 2 years that I had this incredibly distorted taste and smell, which is funny in retrospect, but I had my family to test my recipes and help me with that. There was a couple of foods that I could not appreciate anymore. For example, sweet bell peppers, they tasted like shampoo or aftershave. My coffee was horrible. My toothpaste was horrible. My favorite perfume was horrible. Body odors that you probably recognize, so urine, sweat, horrible. Gasoline, don't ask why, smelled of burnt flowers or something like that. So there were so many things that tasted and smelled completely off. And if you're currently experiencing this, you know how bizarre that is, and it's not something you can explain. Now, I had two friends that had this before I got it, so I turned to them, but they didn't have a solution on how to fix this. And so I was struggling, like butter, when I melted butter to fry an onion, like the kind of smells I've always loved, onions, garlic. It was horrible. So the way I worked around it, like you probably did, is just avoid those foods. And I avoided being in crowds because I noticed that when there was a smell that my brain didn't recognize, so any type of perfume, for example, that I wouldn't recognize, it would take a default smell that was horrible, that would smell like burnt herbs or something really, like it had this hint of aftershave, but then really very, very disgusting. And every smell that my body wasn't able to recognize would turn into that. So this was May 2022. So I started doing research and everybody said, we'll go away. And I tried not to worry about it because it wasn't really getting better. There was one day, one only, in the 2 years that this lasted, that I could smell my perfume, which is Chanel Coco Mademoiselle, and I could smell it. And I was like, oh, I haven't lost it. But all these 2 years, coffee, never a single day that coffee smelled like coffee. I did continue to drink it because coffee for me is a moment, and I didn't want to lose that moment where I sit and relax. It's now early 2024. I try not to worry about it. Usually doctors say anywhere between 2 and 3 years, it should come back all naturally. But I am starting to get other symptoms which are not at all related. I am 47 at the moment, so early this year I was 46, and I started to notice I had perimenopause symptoms, and I started a health journey. I had all my blood work done. The doctor couldn't find any proof of that, but I could tell things were changing. I won't discuss and elaborate on those because that's not the topic of this video, but I started a health journey to help myself feel better. So I found this doctor. Her name is Dr. Clare Haver This book wasn't published early 2024 yet, but she published a book on the menopause and perimenopause symptoms and how to heal yourself. She was the first one that started to talk about insulin resistance and intermittent fasting, which I believe, in retrospect, is what healed my distorted taste and smell. And I found another doctor, Dr. Mindy Pelz, because I didn't just want to start intermittent fasting. If you don't know what that is, intermittent fasting means that you go longer periods every day where you do not eat or drink anything that spikes your blood sugar. So anywhere between 12 already, if you don't eat for 12 hours, it's considered a fast. But ideally, for a woman in my situation, it would be 16 hours of not eating, 8 hours of eating. So basically, it means you have your dinner in the evening and then you don't eat until lunch the next day. I did not just want to start doing this because it felt kind of scary. I lose weight very easily, and I've had a period in my life where I was too skinny. So I bought this book, and this is especially for women because it follows your menstrual cycle. And I followed her advice and started intermittent fasting. So I did that very strictly. And this was mid-February. And early April, lo and behold, I start to notice some of my smell getting better. And the first way that I noticed this was because regular dishes that I cook all the time all of a sudden started being better. So I would say to my family, oh, wow, these vegetables are really good. They have so much more taste to them. And then my sons would go, Mom, it's like you've always, this tastes the same. So I was going, hey, I'm getting more of that nuanced taste back. Then I opened the coffee pot. As I said, I was still drinking my coffee. And there's a hint of coffee coming out of my pot. I'm like, oh, wow. By this time, I was convinced there was nothing wrong with my nose or any of the receptors or things that are happening here. I was convinced it was neurological. Don't ask me why. It was just a gut feeling. So over the course of a week, everything came back. And I was like, what did I do to make this happen? It was so sudden and so unexpected. And I found this video by Dr. Berg. So basically what he says is that the olfactory neurons are the neurons in our brain that are linked to our receptors for taste and smell. These olfactory neurons are in the part of the brain where we also have the highest concentration of insulin receptors. And already when I saw that, I was like, because these two doctors, Dr. Mindy Pelz and the menopause doctor, have both stressed all the time that a woman getting near perimenopause or menopause has a very high chance, almost every woman does, actually most humans do because of our diets and our lifestyle, have a very high insulin resistance. So here I started seeing that taste and smell is highly linked to the capacity of our cells to welcome insulin, to properly welcome and burn the glucose that comes to our cells. So if the cells aren't able to welcome enough insulin, it's going to be extremely difficult to recover these cells and help them, smell and taste properly like they are supposed to. And even he stresses in his video that most people nowadays have a problem with insulin, so they're resistant to insulin. Now, I saw this and I was like, bam, that's it. It was just so clear to me because this was the only thing I had really changed. So in his video, Dr. Berg shares what you can do to really drastically lower your insulin resistance. And one of the things he says as well is intermittent fasting. Now, he advises an 18-hour fast, which is really very long. I have been experimenting with these eating windows a little bit. So the first 2 months where all of this change happened, I will say I was very strict. I was on a 16 to 17-hour fast. You also need to do exercise, make sure you get your vitamin D, and also you need to go on a low-carb diet. And it's all the things I did to balance my hormones. And I cannot tell you how incredibly grateful I am that this was a very unexpected side effect, and it's helping me to stick with this way of living, this lifestyle, and this health journey. And it's not even challenging anymore right now. For example, in the beginning, I also cut all sugars. I only had a dark piece of dark chocolate, one or two, maybe three, maybe four sometimes, um, every day, but I did not eat any sugary like pastries or cookies or no processed food, but I never eat processed foods. One thing I want to say before you start jumping and ordering all these books, which if you're a woman, I highly recommend getting this book. It's not just when you still have a cycle, even when you don't have a cycle anymore, you can still follow the lunar cycle, because for women, it's very important to live according to a cycle in terms of our hormones. I also highly recommend, again, watching Dr. Eric Berg's video with the advice that he gives. He gives lots of other videos that he shares where he shares how to fast responsibly, because it's not for everyone. If you're pregnant, if you're prone to eating disorders, or if you're breastfeeding, you should not do it. But I'm, again, not a medical professional. It's just what I've learned from the doctors that I follow. Please consult with your doctor. So I wanted to share this because I honestly hope that this has been helpful to you. I hope that if you do try this with the help of a professional, a medical professional, that it's going to give you the results that you're hoping for. Please know that I hear you, I feel you, I see you. If you're currently struggling with this, I don't think that anyone that hasn't experienced this truly understands the impact. And to be completely honest, I didn't realize how big the impact was until it got restored. And I noticed how much more of my senses I would use in so many different situations. And even my husband said, you were so frustrated. I was angry all the time. I was just like, my body doesn't do what it needs to do, which just felt like it was letting me down. It had a huge impact mentally as well. So this is why I wanted to share this with you. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I will try to answer just based on my own experience. It's all I can do, but I will try to do that for you. And thanks for watching today. And if you're a regular viewer of the channel, I'll be back with a normal video on our quiet life here in the French countryside. Bye-bye.